or any type of debate setting, that whoever frames the argument successfully first will ultimately end up winning the debate. This idea that is God real or is evolution real? Do you believe in creation or evolution? Is God or evolution? This concept is originally an atheistic idea. It goes back to, for example, Richard Dawkins, who was quoted here in chapel a couple of weeks ago. And I mentioned this to you last time. He said, if evolution, that is natural law, can create, then there's really nothing for God to do. He's out of a job. Now you understand that I think that has some limitations. Because if one says that if natural law creates, it begs the question, who then created the natural law? Who wound it all up in the first place with just the exact right combination of physical constants, chemical elements, and all the other forces that go into making an environment where life can be initiated and flourish? So it's originally an atheistic concept. But remember our photosynthesis example? Sort of an absurd question, wasn't it? Is it God or is it evolution? Well, the atheists have put forward this idea, it's God or it's evolution. But you see, they've stacked the deck. Because you see, they already know that evolution is true and that evolution is real. And so if you can successfully frame the argument in this way, you ensure that the conclusion is going to go against God. By default. It can't be any other way. The extreme irony in all of this, and it's a tragic thing, I think, is that as flawed as this conclusion is, from a logical scientific perspective, a large part of the Christian community has bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. And they do not understand that by buying into this frame of reference and this logic, as an automatic consequence, it means that one data point at a time, as the evidence continues to accumulate that evolution is true, God will be further and further relegated into the margins of reality in our society. We can see exactly where that's happened in Europe. Europe accepts evolution. Sure, it's fine. But there was no strong Christian voice to challenge the conclusion of that process. So let's look at this in a little more detail here. Denying the process of evolution is not a possible loser for us as Christians, people of faith. It is a sure loser. In fact, it's already lost. Evolution is real, just like photosynthesis is real. And as long as we as Christians continue to hang on to that, we have a serious credibility problem, in my view. Most critically, however, as Christians focus their energy on opposing the process of evolution, the atheistic conclusion, as in Europe, goes unchallenged. The secular atheistic worldview wins by default. Now, you've all heard the saying that you can win a battle and lose a war. You've heard that, right? Look at this one. Here's the battle, and this is the one that Christians have been fighting. Not only are we losing that battle, we're fighting the wrong battle. Because the battle isn't about whether evolution is true or not. That's a God-given process of biology. Any biologist who looks at it carefully, even Christian biologists, come to the conclusion it's real. Instead of critiquing and challenging the process, as credible Christians, if we are to be taken that way, we must critique the conclusion of the process. That's where the battle really lies. And as long as we're up here, we're absent without leave where the battle's really taking place. And by default, then, the atheistic worldview wins. I know that for some people this is not necessarily a popular idea. It's not my responsibility to convince you or persuade you. It's my responsibility to share with you what I know, and you do with it what you will. let's take this in a different direction now. Any questions over that? Now let's hold them almost then we'll do some other things. How does this connect to education, public education today? We've got three main ways that it's been approached. One is a six-day creationist approach. That has been declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of the United States. So creationism will not be taught in the public schools. The latest permutation of that is something called intelligent design. Now, I have some good thoughts about intelligent design, but I'm concerned because I think that intelligent design is walking the same mistake as creation science has done. And it's sort of putting God into a box. It's a bigger box, but it's still putting him into a box. And over a period of time, God will systematically be erased again. I've written an opinion editorial piece. It's in one of the sheets over there. If you'd like, pick one up if you don't have one already. And I encourage you to read that, because that will allow you then to understand where I'm coming from here. Science must be free to discover what the world is really like. Some Christians are afraid of science, but I should just say, you don't need to be afraid of science. Science isn't the message. It's not the message. You don't have to be afraid of it. Science is just the messenger. It tells us about God's created order, and we don't need to be fearful about what that created order might show us. So I have a new idea. It's random design. And you all start smiling because I think random design has the potential to move the whole public policy issue in education in a more positive and productive direction. The reason that I think that is because random design gives both sides exactly what they claim to want. The scientists just want to practice science freely, go wherever it leads, to discover what is real in the world. Random design gives them that. The Christians want to be assured that science will never overstep its boundary and pronounce God dead, and say that science proves that God doesn't exist. Random design says there will always be a room at the table for a creator. It's going to take some while, but we're making some headway. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's tie some things up here. We're almost done. So, a new path. The power of random design to re-engage Christianity into contemporary culture. Sometimes I think that my Christian brothers and sisters don't see it. But there's a disengagement that's occurring in our society. The Christians are being looked at as not very intelligent, certainly not engaged. We talked about this last time after the election. Headlines come out of Europe and New York saying maybe we shouldn't even allow the Christians to vote because they aren't intelligent enough. There's a disconnect that's taking place, and I believe that to a large extent it's our own fault. We have not been credible. When we deny clear scientific processes and establish that as a prerequisite for faith, how can we expect to be taken seriously about things like faith, redemption, relationship with God? Can we? I don't know. Well, so Random Designer offers an opportunity for us to re-engage. In the personal arena, with random design, people can intellectually and personally embrace anything that science demonstrates to be true. As long as it's true, who's the creator? God. If it's true, it's out there. He created it. It's good. It's okay. Random Designer clearly shows that any atheistic assertion by science exceeds the legitimate boundaries of the science discipline. From an evangelistic standpoint, I hope that pastors will listen to this. Because whether you agree with anything I've said today or not, you need to be aware of this, because this is where the culture is at. And if you intend to be serious about touching those people, it seems to me like you have to be credible about what's going on, at least understand what they're thinking. Random Designer provides an intellectually and personally fulfilling way to acknowledge the realities of the physical world and the reality of faith. As I said, it offers a compelling, new, true, and credible bridge